Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast. Ozcast. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Hi, it's Patrick O'Driscoll here. You might know me as Pods. I'd like to welcome you to the Adelaide Hills and Fleurieu Farmcast. It's the podcast we produce for the love of farming right throughout the Adelaide Hills and Fleurieu region. And now I'll hand over to Adelaide Hills and Fleurieu Farm Services' very own Belle Baker. Over to you, Belle.
Hi there and welcome to the Adelaide Hills and Fleurieu Farmcast. This is our monthly farmcast that we put together, all the things that you could be thinking about doing on your property in this coming month. Now today I have Daniel here from Gallagher. We have been busy at the inaugural farm fencing demo days. Daniel, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Belle. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, look, it's been a wonderful few days. You've had a big day setting up and then we've had 2 days. One day with the contractors and today with the small acreage farmers. How do you think it's gone for you?
Absolutely amazing. You've done a really good job here. So we had the contractors yesterday. Weather didn't really turn it on, but it did today. So we had definitely a lot of different questions from the contractors yesterday to what we had today from rural lifestylists. Yesterday was sort of more around, as I said, the technology and new technology that Gallagher have got coming out, and today was really about the how-dos and the problem-solving in fences that they've got already.
So Gallagher, we know Gallagher for electric fencing. Are there any other brands encompassed in that, in Gallagher, or is it all about, do you specialise and focus on electric fencing?
Okay, so we do electric fencing. No, we don't. Definitely don't. We do weighing and EID for livestock as well.
EID is in the electronic identification?
Correct. Yep.
Good, yes.
Yep, for cattle and for sheep. So
yes.
Reading that data.
Yes.
And the weighing as well to put alongside that data.
Yes.
And also Gallagher also bought Norton at the end of last year as well. So we also do livestock handling. That's
exciting. I see that as a really good addition to what Gallagher are offering. I mean, Norton produced some really good products, and I can only see those going further and better with the support of Gallagher. So I personally think that's a wonderful thing. So let's talk about today. So we have had lifestyle, small acreage, hobby farmers here today. They have all been the most engaged group of people. Now, part of me always thinks you want hundreds and thousands of people at your events. No, I see you shaking your head. It was a good group of about somewhere between 30 and 40 for most of the day, and they were engaged the whole day, weren't they?
Yeah, so you kicked off here at about 9:30 this morning. People were rolling in between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, really eager to get here.
Before the coffee cart
rocked up, everyone was already here and really engaged the whole way through. I mean, from 8:30 till 3 o'clock this afternoon, everyone was really engaged with what was going on. It was absolutely really good.
So we had Tim Thompson here, who is pretty much the poster boy for fencing in Australia. He has a massive following on YouTube. He did a great job of leading the group and teaching them. What did you think of him?
Unreal. He had them drawn in the whole way through. From start to finish, Tim had them in his hand.
Didn't he?
And from doing knots to electric fencing and had them in his hand the whole way through.
He had a wonderful way of engaging them, didn't he? And, he's come from a teaching background, but a very strong ag background, but a teaching background. And he did say at one point, this is the first time he's presented in front of adults. I think he's missed his calling. What has he been doing for the last 30 years?
And that's what everyone else was saying as well. They could not believe that he's never presented like this before. He was absolutely a natural. Amazing.
And do you think, so today and yesterday, we really set out to not be a field day, didn't we? It's hands-on, immersive learning where everyone can ask a question and get hold of the tools, get hold of the products that you have on site. Do you think that is the way to go? Rather than a field day where it's a huge site, you've got lots of perhaps tyre kickers I mean, you wouldn't have had any tyre kickers today.
Not at all. No, not at all. And I said we could get our hands on, we could break stuff, we could stand stuff up. We had people tying knots. Our products, I said we had them out there, we were bending them, we were pushing them to their limits.
Hang on. Whoa. What about you and the tractor? Well, you and the tractor and pods. Actually, it was Tim, wasn't it? They ran over a goddamn post of yours.
Yeah, so the insulated line post that we're using as a suspension post, yes, was driven over in a tractor today and stood straight back up again. So it's pretty exciting to see.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And I mean, I get companies get a bit nervous about that stuff.
Yeah.
But it worked a treat.
It definitely did, yeah. And I said we tried it, we pushed it to its limit, and it's still standing up and out in the paddock as we speak, actually, yeah.
So there was a lot to take in today, and some of the stuff you were saying about your electric fences, I went, wow, that's great info. How am I going to remember that next time? So I think I mentioned, we'll get together, you and I, and we'll write down some of the key things that you were saying. But just for our listeners out there, who can always subscribe and we can send it to them, very, very happy to share information. Gallagher in particular, you, Daniel, have been so generous with your knowledge. What are some of those key things you were saying? So, and forgive me, about earthing initially?
Correct, yeah. So one of our biggest issues is earthing. So people are putting in Energizers fences, which is great, but they're not earthing them properly. With power's leaking back out the earth, hence fences not working properly. One
of the other things that Tim said today, and I hadn't really realised, because logically for me, when you set up your electric fence, you put your Energizer on, you run them round the external fence of your property. What did Tim say about, because I was a bit blown away and a bit shell-shocked, I didn't really take, what was he saying?
So you treat your electric fence unit effectively like your water troughs. So if you were going to put water in your property, you wouldn't put a water source all the way around. There's no need for it.
No.
So you'd put it straight through the middle first, and then you branch off of that. So you put that down your, say, laneway, and then branch off of that into your troughs, into your paddocks. So you treat that exactly the same.
And that's so logical, but I what is it with this old school thinking?
Correct. Yeah, it's just getting away from that thinking and going into,
and that, I think, is what's so important in having suppliers like you from Gallagher here, because we get stuck in our ways and it's very hard to see outside the square and imagine what else is out there. And unless you go to days like that, like days like today and yesterday,
definitely,
and unless we have access to you, the experts in the products you're selling, it is such a wonderful resource, and probably a resource that customers don't take up nearly as much as they could.
No, definitely not. As I said, it's getting out of that old mindset and changing, because the technology has really changed. It's changing as we speak.
Yeah.
And you said you can get your electric fence on your phone these days. You can see what it's doing from apps. You can see.
Ooh, that's a great segue. You should be on radio. You should do podcasts. You showed me earlier on today, let's talk about that briefly, a rat trap.
Yes.
That was cool. So tell me about it.
So Gallagher have got a good nature rat trap, mouse trap. So that'll it's got a lure, not a bait. So there's no secondary baiting to other animals. So your cat can then grab that mouse or rat that's been killed, eat that. It's not going to get poisoned.
Yeah, great. So we save money on food for the cat.
Yeah,
excellent.
Definitely.
Good. Excellent. So what you're saying is there's no residual poison in it.
Correct.
So and they're an expensive investment to start with, but like all things, you spend the money up front and you get the longevity out of it.
Yeah.
And you get it works. I've seen it work. And then forgive my technology here, the bits, the replacement bits, the
accessories. Bits, that go with it. Yep.
Are actually really not expensive.
Yeah, really cheap. We've tried it in different situations as well. I did it at home. We had baits around for months. Baits weren't getting touched. Knew there was mice there. Put one of those in there. We had 8 within the weekend. So
cool.
They get sick of the baits. They get used to baits. This is just something different that they actually got to get in there. And
Yes. And look, I haven't actively seen them at a lot of the resellers, but what you said to me earlier on, ask them.
Ask the resellers, because if they haven't displayed them properly, where some really are on the counter, they are there. And if they're not there, they will get them in for you. They're readily available now.
I think that's fantastic. And it's those little gems that I think make days like today so worthwhile. So, Daniel, tell me about, today was a big deal, right? Yesterday, the last few days, let's just go through it here. We had tractoring for women. And while you weren't actively involved in that, you were here most of the day setting up. These things don't happen instantly.
Correct.
They take time. It's your commitment. So you were here on the Thursday setting up while we were tractoring around the place. That's an interview for another day. And then yesterday we had the contractors here for our farm fencing demo days, and you were active in here all day. That was a big commitment, and their focus was slightly different to today. And today was farmers, hobby farmers, small acreage farmers, lifestyle people, and that's a massive commitment for you. So tell me, these events, when people like us go out of our way to set them up and run them, you're really supportive.
Yeah, 100%. You've done an amazing job, Bill, in putting this together. And education's a big thing, which I think I said to you the other day. Education for us is massive. So the better you know our product, how it works, the more you're likely to use it.
Yes.
As you said before, people were sort of shied away from electric fencing because it wasn't done properly. The education is a big thing for us to get out there. And
we're happy to help. I think, and it makes our job easier in the long run. If we can share this knowledge before people make some fundamental mistakes, particularly with earthing, then we're all winning. And you have been so generous with your information and knowledge, and that makes us be able to help our clients all the more better, easier.
So, Bill, before you go on, what did you get out of these last few days? You met some people that listen to your podcasts that sort of follow you guys quite heavily. What did you get out of the last few days, and what feedback did you get?
Oh, look, it was wonderful to meet so many people and people from close by that we didn't know were listeners, but also people from further away. I think Truro was the furthest away today, and it was fascinating. So they all have a similar story and yet so different. So some of them said, my neighbour taught me how to fix the fence. But you know what? They weren't quite, it's just not working. Coming here and learning amongst other people who are at that same stage and same point, that they want to get the right information. And that's probably the coolest thing that we were able to provide for them today. Yeah. And yes, it's that ability. They can ask any questions they like, and if they haven't thought to ask it, somebody else has, and they've gone, oh, gee whiz, I'm really glad you thought to ask that question. And then there's the things, and you had a weird one. You had someone say they were using droppers
as a strainer post for an end assembly. Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Just wow.
Yeah.
So if we can help these people create fences that help them manage their farm, their land, it's great stewardship of the land, because fencing is the cornerstone of management. And it's so important. It is an investment for the future. And if they are looking for the information, not just from their neighbour, not just from grandpa who still has the wire strainers that he got back in 1960, there's so much that's happened in the gap. Definitely. And these people seem to be so enthusiastic and like sponges looking for that information. Oh, and hang on, have a listen to what a few of our people here today have had to say. That really paints the whole picture. Hi there, we're here at the Adelaide Hills and Fleurieu Farm Services Farm Fencing Demo Day. It is a beautiful day, and I'm here with Rick. Thank you so much for coming, and you brought your family.
Yes, thank you.
Where's home for you?
Truro.
Truro, that's
a bit of a distance.
Yeah.
Other side of the Bros Valley. So.
Yeah, and you made the effort to come down here for this farm fencing day?
Yeah, correct. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And is it everything you expected?
Yes, no, it was very good.
Yeah.
So we're doing kilometres of fencing at the moment. Mm-hmm. So we've only got the posts in. So seeing all the knots and seeing what to use and the applications to use them in was perfect. So
right, excellent.
Fantastic.
And so that you've learnt a lot. You're going to go back home with confidence.
Yes,
you'll produce
absolutely.
a better fence because of it.
Yep.
And you've made some contacts with industry here if you run into trouble.
Yes.
Would you come to an event like this again?
Yes, we would.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yep. No,
wonderful.
It was very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming today.
Oh.
It's been a beautiful day.
It's been wonderful, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
So based in Clayton Bay.
Yes.
Got 10 acres over there, just trying to work out what to do with it. And
yeah.
Just starting.
Just starting?
Out, yes.
Yep, excellent. So a day like today, Farm Fencing Demo Day, you've had a chance to get hands-on. You've learnt some knots.
Not only that, I've also been able to ask questions.
Yes.
And not feel like I should know the answer. Because, you know, it was for beginners, it was based on that whole beginner. But also to meet other people who are in the same situation and chat about what their struggles are and are they in the same situation as me. Or
So you've been able to learn from the other people here, not just the suppliers.
Absolutely. I've met sort of 2 or 3 new people who are, some of them have already started their fencing, some of them shouldn't have started their fencing. And one of the people said, you know, we don't know what we don't know.
No. So if we were to run some more events similar to this or different topics, would you be keen to come along?
Absolutely would.
Yes.
Absolutely would.
Fantastic.
One suggestion might be a small holding, you know, a hobby farmers day where we get together and, you know, we recognise our community and our network.
Excellent. That's wonderful. We're going to do our best to put something like that together. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you so much for coming today.
That's a pleasure.
Yeah, we've had a beautiful day. The weather is divine.
Yep.
What made you come along today?
Well, I think just knowing my deficiencies in fencing, I've just been doing it as more off the cuff sort of stuff, just getting it done. But knowing that you had people here that would be able to teach the right way of doing things, that's why I'm
And have you had a chance to talk to the suppliers? Have they been helpful?
Yeah, definitely. I've just been chatting to a couple there. You dragged me away from one. And
I'm sorry, yes, from Jodie from White's. I know, but we can go back to her.
No, that's fine. No, it's good. That's been a really good part of it, just to be able to touch base with the people that make the product or have it available.
Did I see you doing some knots with Tim Thompson before?
Yes, well, that was why I came, was to learn some of the basics, really, the fencing 101, and he's been really good in doing that and not necessarily assuming knowledge, but not making us feel like fools either. So it's been a really good teaching experience. He's just good at what he does.
He certainly is. No, we're thrilled to have him on board. Andrew, if we were to run these types of events again or any other events down here, would you be keen to come along?
Definitely. I think this type of learning experience is
the
fantastic.
hands-on, being able to touch, feel.
Definitely. Hands-on, have that intimate relationship with suppliers, with people like Tim. There's not 500 people here.
Yeah,
it's a really good fit. So, you know, Adelaide Hills Fleurieu Farm Services, to be able to provide this sort of a learning opportunity is great for people on the land like myself.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's been a real privilege to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Belle.
So, Daniel, before we finish, one of the things that everyone was asking for today is just a little bit more information. So what we'll do, we'll put some information in an email, you know, and we'll put people on our newsletter. If anyone is looking for more information on what we've covered in the next few days, we'll provide it out. We're an open book. You've made yourself so available, Daniel, and we're really grateful. So we'll do that. But in closing, thank you. We are so grateful for the support that you and Gallagher have provided, and all the other supporters, the other suppliers. We couldn't put this day or these few days together without you. And I think it's time to we all work together. Thanks. And how fabulous.
Thanks, Belle. Thanks for having us. I said, and definitely be back again, and look forward to hearing from you about starting to set up for the next one.
Wonderful. Thank you. And before we finish, Alex Thomas has given us some permission to share some of the snippets from her safety presentation she gave to the contractors yesterday. Boy, can that lady hold a room. There was 25 contractor, fairly blokey blokes, not a sound in the room. They were listening. They were so engaged. It was wonderful to see, and I think they all took something home. So we're going to play a few snippets for you now.
So paperwork, box ticking, policies and procedures, all this crap. And what do you think his response to that was? Crap. Yeah, pretty much. Dug his heels in the sand, and he was pretty vocal about it. And the irony was that I started a career in safety because there were 2 entry-level jobs for women in mining at that point. One was in admin and the other one was in safety. So I became pretty good at ticking boxes and waving a big stick around. And it wasn't long while I was watching my dad's health deteriorate and I was doing a lot of box ticking that I started to realise that there's this gross disconnect between the fundamental intent of work health and safety, which is just don't kill someone and get them home safely at the end of each day, and what we were doing on that mine site. And that narrative and that stereotype, which is so boring and so negative and so reactive, is still alive and well today. But we have an opportunity to do things very differently, because the thing is that in current work health and safety law, stay with me on this, there is not one line in legislation that says you are required to have a documented policy or procedure. And further to that, there are very few places that say that you need to keep records, which flies in the face of just about everything we've seen and heard when it comes to work health and safety, right? Sorry?
What are you saying?
You're like, yeah, I know, right? It sounds too good to be true. So where does that leave us? And it's an interesting question, because the safety profession itself is wildly unregulated. Because when mining started to want to do something about safety, they went, where are we going to find these people? Oh, well, anyone who had went and got a Cert 4 in work health and safety out of a Weet-Bix box could call themselves a safety professional and go and tick some boxes for a mining company and get a 6-figure salary in the meantime, right? And then what's kind of happened is mining has changed. Work health and safety from a technical standpoint has evolved significantly, but there's all these people that are still stuck in that crazy old school narrative that safety is just about paperwork and box ticking. And if you actually do your research as a safety professional, and you go and spend some time swimming around in the stuff that comes out of universities, you'll know that the notion of a procedure was debunked in the 50s. Dead. It doesn't add any value whatsoever. Now, that's not to suggest that sometimes pieces of paper can add some value. So if you're going to fly a plane tomorrow, you've got to have a pretty good understanding on the sorts of things you've got to check off before you get in that plane and you put it in the sky, for obvious reasons, right? So any piece of paper that lives and exists within our businesses has to add significant value, because why else would you have it? So who's ever had a shopping list before? Or a to-do list? Or a purchase order? Used a bit of dunny roll? Hey? What's that?
They send me shopping, I only get half of it.
But my point is, if you're going to have paper inside your business, it has to add value. And if you're going to do something about safety, I don't want you to start at the paperwork end of the spectrum. So let's break this down a little bit more. So when I say, now I've kind of primed you for this, when I say to you, work health and safety, tell me what comes to mind. Rules, and sorry, what was that? Admin, yep. Rules. High vis.
Pain in the butt.
Pain in the butt. What else? Reamed. Insurances, yeah. What else? Time, like as in it takes a lot of time. Yep. Time. What else? Teaching people? Okay, tell me more about that. Okay, and do we think that adds value? Yeah? Can do, can't it? Yeah. Right? What's the best kind of training? On the job. So on the job, practical, hands-on training. So if I came out to you pods and I said, have you done a documented risk assessment for the job that you're about to do, and have you considered the likelihood and consequence of something going wrong? How does that sit with you?
I would say no and yes.
You'd probably tell me to f*** off. Let's be honest. All right, what is being safe all about? What's the end result we're looking for here? To go home. Go home and do your best. Okay, so go home and do your best to reduce the chance of something going wrong, yeah? All right, so how much time does our industry spend swimming around trying to be compliant with somebody else's interpretation of what keeping people safe means? It's pretty crazy, isn't it? We spend a lot of time trying to appease someone that may never turn up on our doorstep. And for what? So who's the expert in understanding your business?
We are.
You are. So there's this disproportionate power that the regulator has and safety people have, and everybody outside of our businesses who assume to know better than us about how we reduce risk, and what we do to keep our people safe and the practical things that we do to make sure we come home at the end of each day, right? So the narrative at the moment inside agriculture is owned by someone other than the people who are actually running the show, which is a bit crazy, isn't it? It's a lot crazy. So often when people say, or they hear that I'm a safety professional, number one, I feel like I have to go, but I don't have the personality of a wet fish. And the second thing is I'm not about box ticking. And then they kind of go, but is she lying? Is she telling the truth? Because there's so many safety professionals out there who are well-intended, but who are pushing this compliance line, pushing the message of the regulator, coming in and assuming to know better than we do as business owners or as staff or whatever about what we do and how we do it and what's going to add the most value, which is complete rubbish. And it actually flies in the face of what the law is actually all about. So what do you think the core intent of work health and safety law is? Just don't kill someone. That's what it is. Don't kill someone and do your damn best to make sure that that's the case. So, which sort of speaks more to this stuff. It's doing the practical day-to-day stuff that will keep you coming home at the end of each day.
I'm here with the lovely Jackie Davies from Emmetts Oakbank. How are you today, Jackie?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Now, we met recently, just last week,
yes,
at our inaugural Tractoring for Women event down at our property in Currency Creek. You were there with David George. You were amazing support and help for our ladies who are learning to drive tractors. So tell me, You're a sales rep here at Emmetts. You've been here for just over a year.
Yes.
Have you been involved in any other events like this? What was your take? What were your thoughts?
So this is my first learning event that I've attended, and it was so great to see the women coming out and learning, especially me being there to help, because it's, having women in the industry is so important, and
yes,
having women teaching women, I think, is so important, and having events like this that are run by women especially are really important.
Yes. And so when, just from a completely practical point of view, when you guys here at Emmetts sell a tractor, and you're John Deere dealership here, do you provide any training on properties for, men or women, for all your clients in general? Do you go out to the properties and teach them how to use the tractor well and safely and confidently?
Yeah, definitely. So especially during handover, that's a really important time. Right from when they're picking out their tractor, I like to make sure they're making it as informed decision as possible. So we'll go through the models that they're first looking at and compare the sizes and compare what the usages are. I make sure that if they're lifting a round bale of hay, they're getting the right series for doing that. So it really does start from the dealership before they've even bought the tractor.
Right.
That, safety's put in place and they're getting the right thing, what they need. And then once we deliver the tractor, I go through every single button and pedal that the tractor has, every feature, working under loaders, making sure you're putting the loader struts in place if you're working underneath it, all things like that. And I always make sure to call after I've delivered the tractor to make sure that if they have any more questions, I'm able to come out and give them a hand.
Yeah, and do you usually go through that with the men or the women?
So usually whoever's at delivery.
Yeah.
So there have been a few women lately that I've delivered their 5 Series or 4 Series to, and they've been the main person that will use it.
Yes.
And so I'll go through everything with them, and I find that they're quite happy to ask me the questions, being the female.
Of course.
Because it's been, I've driven tractors for a long time, but coming into sales, you just learn the depth of knowledge that goes into a tractor and all the different features and tips and tricks of how to really use it to its potential.
So do you think women are forming more of that, more involved in that decision making of investing in a tractor now?
Yeah, definitely. Especially on a lot of farms, the women will do a lot of the accounting and bookkeeping. So really, they're the one who sets the budget.
Yes.
So even if the husband is going out and using the tractor, she's the one who sets, all right, well, this is what we can afford and this is what we're getting and we're budgeting this for next year. And so it is, I feel, a lot more of a woman's decision now as well as a man's decision. I make sure when we are picking out the tractors, if the couple is coming in, that I obviously give them equal as much attention, and if she's going to be using the tractor, I'm obviously not going to speak directly to him the whole time make her feel left out. So
and so in my own experience, when I was working on property just out of Narracourt, we had a really old JCB, and I'm not going to be able to come up with the name.
Like a telehandler?
No, it wasn't a telehandler. It had the movement in the middle. It'll come to me. Anyway, it was really the first step to get up into this thing. Yeah, it was articulated loader. The first step to get into it was about 1 metre off the ground. And I had to haul myself up there. And then if anything went wrong, it was such big, heavy hydraulics, it was well and truly beyond my capability to diagnose, let alone pull anything off to take it anywhere to get fixed. What I'm really hoping that that was a moment in time, you know, I had to help my father run the property when he got sick. And that's what was there at the time. And we did change tractors not long after that. But what I'm really hoping is that as a part of this buying decision, if women are more involved, then things like the ease of the ability for them to do basic repairs or to diagnose, and or just to get in and out of the cab safely and carefully is considered. Are there things in machinery in general or in tractors that are, or of series of tractors, if you like, that are more suited to women driving them than men?
Well,
or to consider them at all?
I feel like it's not even based off of gender at this point, it's more experience.
Yes.
So if someone is really extremely green to tractors, I generally recommend a hydrostatic model, which is forwards and reverse pedals. So if someone wants to move hay and they're getting their first tractor, a lot of times I will suggest a hydrostatic 4 series.
That's the type of tractor I was in the other day.
Yes, that is the one that you were driving around on.
A lot of fun, right up until the bit where I did that thing with the gears. So and it was easy to drive because it meant I could actually focus more on the hay bales than what I was doing because the pedal operation was actually second nature because I can drive a car. So I found that really, really good.
And especially with the gears, you've only got a couple of ranges, so you can, I say, even look, if you want to go for a test drive out the back, just put it in A and go around and do only 1 or 2 kilometres per hour and get used to it that way, and when you're feeling a bit more adventurous, go into B and take it those steps at a time rather than just going, I have to be like out cruising around and contracting pretty much.
I think steady as you go to start with anything like that. So I think it's really, really refreshing that we have a young woman like you working in a very, very male-orientated industry, not just agriculture industry, but machinery, dealership industry. And I applaud Emmetts for taking you on and doing this, and I can see that perhaps they can see there is a change in the market or a direction that they want to take, and I think it is fantastic. But you're not actually completely and utterly new to this. You've got a farming background, haven't you?
So dairy farming, olive farming, chicken farming.
So you've been driving tractors for a very long time. And I think sometimes that hands-on knowledge is what makes people like you good at what you do, because you're not just learning from a manual. You're not just learning because somebody's told you that's what to do. You actually have that hands-on practical knowledge, and I think that's so important.
For sure, definitely. And a few different backgrounds. It's been really rewarding, and I think it's made my journey a lot easier at Emmetts, having that prior knowledge, and especially with some of the customers, you know, they see a female sales rep and they go, oh, what would she know? And then you go, oh, well, back in the Grove or on the farm, this is what we used. And then suddenly they, you know, cock their head a little bit and go, oh, wow, you actually have an idea and, yeah, can recommend based off of actually using these machines out in the paddock.
Yes,
so,
yeah. Today I have Tim Glover from Ramsay Bros here. G'day, Tim.
Hello, Bill. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Now, Tim, I've only met you recently. We spoke about the Tractoring for Women event, and you were very gracious in your support of it, which is fantastic. Now, you are the Group Sales Manager for Ramsay Bros and have been for some time. Can you tell me a little bit about Ramsay Bros, your role and your journey to becoming the Group Sales Manager?
Absolutely. I'll try and keep it as brief as we can. We don't want to go too long because there's a fair story, but I guess Ramsay Bros in itself, we're a third generation family owned agricultural machinery business, started on the Eyre Peninsula at a place called Kayelpa, moved to Cleve, and literally started by the two original Ramsay brothers, Fred and Lloyd. And since then, I mean, the business was started literally because they saw a need to support the agricultural communities in that area. And here we are, some 70 years later, into our third generation, still a family-owned company, not so much a family-operated company anymore, still family involved from a day-to-day basis. But we've grown from, you know, one branch in Kayelpa now to 6 branches across the state with a head office in Adelaide. And yeah, we've obviously grown our footprint, grown our portfolio, employ about 140 staff across the state, so turned into a fairly reasonable size operation. As you said, I'm the group sales manager, so I look after the sales side, if you like, for our branches and our operation. And my journey there, Belle, I originally started out in automotive, so long time ago. I've just celebrated my 51st birthday and feel every one of those 51 years at the moment. It's been a bit busy, but an opportunity came up 10 years ago to join these guys. As I said, family owned, and they were a family operated company back then, and they were looking to transition and to bring in some other skills and experience. And I had the opportunity to come in as the first non-family member into a senior management role. So grabbed the opportunity, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, I love hearing about that kind of foresight that companies have. Not all companies, not all agricultural businesses have that kind of foresight. So I think that's wonderful that they've got you in at an early stage, and you're here now representing Ramsay Bros and doing a damn good job of it, because we have had the most wonderful experience with you guys this week with Tractoring for Women, and we just can't thank you for your support enough. So now, just to clarify, Ramsay Bros, they're Case IH dealership, aren't they?
We are. So first and foremost, our biggest franchise is Case IH, but
and they're the red ones for everyone out there who doesn't know. You know, every tractor's got a colour.
Exactly.
These are the red ones.
We work on the colour, so we are the red ones. Case IH, which is Case International Harvester, and that is first and foremost our biggest brand. It takes up about 50% of our business, but obviously as the pursuit of agriculture has expanded, we've also expanded our offering and relevance to customers. And look, Bill, as a company, we started, our roots are in Broadacre, but we've transitioned into so much more than that now. So there's not too many facets of the ag industry in terms of machinery that we don't cover. Yeah.
So if we just sort of stick to tractors and front-end loaders for the minute, because that's all my brain can get around. Now, I'm just about to find out that I can't remember what number tractor ours is, but we've got a Case IH, a Farmall something. It's about a 90 horsepower, 95 horsepower. There we go. I just got a message from the outskirts there telling me it was 95. It's a reasonably small tractor. It's not a big one by any measure, but it's also not a small one. But you guys do really smaller tractors that obviously can't do the big heavy work. But you must sell a lot of those into the Adelaide Hills.
Absolutely, and it's I guess that's a part of the market. So we start at 20 horsepower and go right through to 620 horsepower. So everything in between, but absolutely we do. And you know, you're talking 20 horsepower tractor. I guess essentially, forgetting size and the horsepower requirements, the operational aspects of them are all very, very similar.
Yes.
You know, cabs, ROPs, and you'll probably hear me refer to that terminology of ROPs during our podcast today. Simply means a rollover protective structure.
Oh, yes.
So the little hoop over the back. Any new tractor sold in Australia has to have one of those.
Yes.
Under Australian design rules, and also something that your listeners should be looking at if they're ever looking in the market for something second-hand and essentially privately. Never ever go down the path of buying one without that rollover protective structure, because it will save your life. And we'll talk, I guess, about some operational aspects and that sort of thing of tractors. But yeah, we do. So we do sell a lot, and I guess our in that lifestyle segment, we sort of go from that 20 horsepower generally up to about that 95-100 horsepower that you've got, depending on how big people's property are and what they want to do with them.
So just to keep it really basic, if I had a 20 horsepower Case IH tractor, could I lift a round bale of hay up and move it into a hay feeder?
No, you couldn't. No. And I guess as we transition, we'll talk through some of those things, but you can't. And then, and you've got to buy a machine that's fit for purpose, I guess.
Absolutely.
And I don't know that I like using that terminology, because I think it gets thrown around too much, and I don't think people understand exactly what it means. But you've got to buy a machine that's going to do the job.
Yes.
And we'll talk safety, we'll talk those sort of things. But it's the biggest misconception is that you buy a tractor, regardless of what size it is, and you can go out and, you know, lift whatever you want to lift. It just simply isn't the case.
No.
It's I guess the analogy is you wouldn't go out and buy a Hyundai Getz to go and tow a 23-foot caravan. So, you know, there's got to be some research and some advice and that sort of thing around it.
And that's really where these dealerships come in so handy. All right, Tim. So we've got the basics now. Now we are chatting because, you know, we connected when I rang you about the Tractoring for Women course. Now, I'll be honest, your enthusiasm and support was so good that if I hadn't received that, I can honestly say I might have lost my nerve and decided this whole crazy idea was something that just wasn't going to work.
Well, I think I'm going to cut you off before you go on, because we've discussed this a couple of times, and I think I need to correct for you and the listeners, it wasn't a crazy idea. I know that you perceive it like that sometimes, but as I've said in our discussions, I mean, it's just such a wonderful thing that really there's a niche in the market for it. And you know, you guys had the foresight to do it. Yeah. So let's get rid of the word crazy.
I shouldn't call it, I mean, I think before we ran it, I definitely had my doubts and thought it was a bit of a crazy out there idea, but now we've run it and it has been so well received, not only by the dealerships, but also by the women who attended, and all the women who want to attend the next one, that I think you're right, I need to take crazy out of it.
Absolutely. And look, at the end of the day, Bill, you know, my level and Ramsay Brothers' level of enthusiasm, it's the sort of things that we like to do.
Yes.
You know, we are literally, you know, we've been around a long time, you know, and I don't want to stress that family thing, but we still live the family values that we had 70 years ago.
So is that why this really resonated with you?
I think there's a few things. I think there is that, but I think the opportunity for us to get to the wider audience at that level, you know, at more of an operational level in that group environment, where we become a supporter of it, where, you know, you facilitate it. And I think sometimes people get a little bit wary of the big dealerships and that sort of stuff, and I guess that's just human nature.
Yes.
You know, we literally are there, as I said, Fred and Lloyd Ramsay started the company to serve the agricultural community. We're still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that there's without being, I'm not trying to be derogatory, but as a third party like yourself that's come in to facilitate something like this, absolutely we'll throw our support behind it the whole way through, because it's important for us to be able to get to our end users and literally go through the things that the Tractoring for Women events covered. So, you know, our enthusiasm for it, you know, was strong then, and it continues, you know, after seeing the first event.
And I think that was one of the most important things for us. I mean, we wanted to run this course to give women confidence that they could drive a tractor, but we're really grateful that all the dealerships understood their role and that it wasn't an opportunity to sell. It wasn't a hard sell opportunity. It was a soft sell. It was being helpful, which is completely in line with what Pods and I wanted to do. We wanted to be helpful, and that is our big ethos with our business overall anyway. So we're really grateful that the dealerships didn't take over, that they were there to support what we were doing and support the women who came along. So we just thought that was wonderful. Do you see women increasingly taking a role in the buying decision now? Or do you think it's just slightly more obvious, or do you think it's always been there but maybe not acknowledged?
I think, Bill, it's always been there.
Yes.
Reality is, you can go back to Adam and Eve, if we want to go back that far. But I think in our business, it's always been there. And I think as time's progressed, we've got rid of that stereotypical attitude a little bit. I think there's still a fair bit of it around, which is really unfortunate in this day and age. Mm-hmm. But certainly, I talk from my perspective, and I talk about, I've got a sales team of 15 people, 140 people on our staff, and our staff know acutely well, certainly with our bigger customers.
Can I ask how many are women?
You would catch me out here, but I would say 20 plus.
Yeah, good.
So something I've been really, really enthusiastic about.
Keep at you, Tim.
Well, I've just got my first female sales consultant coming on in our Riverton branch, which has been really, really exciting.
Yeah.
But going back to your question, they've always been involved.
Yes.
And I just think it's the, dare I say it, the smarter people actually acknowledge the fact that they are 50-50 partnership. So, we involve them in everything we do.
Yeah. So one of my big reasons for wanting to run Tractoring for Women was my own story, which goes back to 2016 when my dad got sick with encephalitis and I took over running the farm. At the time, we only had 1,000 acres on the outskirts of Narracourt. We were still running our Callendale Simmental cattle stud, and we had about 12,000 head in the lamb feedlot. So Dad was in semi-retirement mode and not into buying new kit. So we had a big old JCB articulated loader, and it was great. It was completely overkill for what we needed to be doing, but it did the job and it was fine. Now, when I had to go and start taking over and doing things, just manipulating this, getting in the thing was a metre off the ground for the first step. So I've got two hands on the gotcha bar thingy. The rail to lift myself up. It was horrendous. And then I would have to sit in it for 10 or 15 minutes to wait for the oil to do its thing with the hydraulics.
To warm up.
Warm up, yeah, that's my technical terminology. But it was that particular tractor was very close to needing a new engine rebuild. So the decision was made by the men around me that it needed to be sold. But I was not included in the purchase decision to buy what we were going to be buying next. Even though I was the one driving the goddamn thing on the property, I was excluded from all conversations around what we should be buying, what it should look like, what it needed, like horsepower, anything, completely and utterly excluded. And that was obviously, I don't think they meant any malice by it, but on their, they were sort of thinking that, well, I don't know anything about tractors.
Well, it was the way I refer to that stereo. Yeah, I know, but we're still... there is a change, but go on.
Yeah, no. So, you're absolutely right. It's not, and like I said, it's not meant in malice, but at the time, if I look at it, my dad had he was not well, he had an inability to really make good, sound decisions. My brother took control of the situation. He was living in another state, and I had absolutely no relationship with him. And we also had a well-meaning family friend who would come onto the farm and help me out. Now, these three people decided that we were going to get a cheap and nasty little Chinese toy thing that was going to do the job for us. Now, this particular brand had no dealership in South Australia. I believe they had a dealership in Victoria, but even now, when I look at their website, it's under construction. This tractor arrived on the property. Some of the finer bits needed to be put together. There was no salesperson or anyone from dealership to hand it over to show us how to work it or anything like that. It was just
turned up on a truck.
And I might add with a good deal of bits that needed to be fixed. So we had to engage a diesel mechanic to put that all together. This thing didn't have enough horsepower. A lot of the steel was second rate and not, as you would say, fit for purpose.
Wasn't good Australian quality steel.
A lot of the parts broke immediately or bent, and of course to get parts they had to come from overseas, and to replace them with any other brand parts you forego your warranty. The whole thing was a nightmare, and we still have that tractor today. Mum and Dad we've sold the property, Mum and Dad have it on their block, and when Dad's not trying to put petrol in instead of diesel, it does just poke up the odd wood pile, etc. And that's about all it has to do now. But I was made to feel like my opinion and my thoughts didn't matter, and that has been one of my major drivers for tractoring for women. Pods and I have a really good relationship when it comes to these things because we own a Case IH tractor, as I said, 95 horsepower I think we've established, and I was every bit involved in that buying decision.
Listening to your story, it's something we hear more often than not, so I'll try and cover that part of it off pretty quickly. Unfortunately, one of the things that we see, and it's not just in the agriculture industry, we see a lot of these, I call them fly-by-nighters, that think there's a good opportunity to grab something out of China or someone like that that's cheap price, peddle it through the market, and people go, that's cheap, I don't want to spend a lot of money, I'll grab one of those. And I think the sad thing is that they're in business 1 minute, they're not in business the next minute. We do see it not only in that articulated loader space, we also see it with cheap forklifts, we also see it with cheap tractors.
Yeah.
So I think the first lesson, if I could call it, to be learnt from that is buyer beware.
Yes.
Literally if it seems too good to be true, generally it is.
Absolutely.
And I don't think, the number of times I've said this, I wish I had $5 because I'd be well and truly retired, but
yes.
Not all is what you see. And the things that we use in the agricultural space, whether it's for commercial production or hobby farm, they'll break down.
Yes.
It's because of the nature of the work that they're doing.
Yes.
So when they do, you want to make sure that you've got that backup support and it gets up and running. You're going to be able to get parts. You're going to be able to get someone to fix it if you can't fix it yourself. And there's reasons that dealerships have factory trained technicians and experienced people. So yeah, back to that part of it, buyer beware. Try and stick with your trusted brands, your reputable dealers. I've talked about Ramsay Bros. We've been in business for over 7 years doing it. We are bloody good at what we do.
Yes.
And that is our way of life. So we are there to help and support. Yeah, you're going to pay a little bit more, but at the end of the day, I can tell you it's going to cost you a heck of a lot less in the long run. So I think that's the first thing. Back to the buying decision or the involvement, you have to be. You use the word partnership. It really is, because at the end of the day, you're both going to use it. You both need to understand, especially in the hobby farm space, you may have a specific need that you want it to do. It might be around horses. You might have a livestock component that you're trying to do. You might be doing, firewood. So there's a myriad of, as you know, there's a myriad of different tasks that the tractor will do on your property.
Yep.
And again, depending on what size tractor it is. So, to sit down together and have those conversations before you go and, establish what it is that you need, what it is that you want it to do, because the stereotypical, using that terminology again, the masculine man, although I think there's a lot less of us now than there was before, will sit there and go, no, I know tractors, like the old ad on TV, I know boats.
Yes.
He may not have any bloody idea what he's after. No. If this is a first time purchase as a hobby farmer or a lifestyle farmer, sit down and do it together, 100%. And I think the other side of that is work with a dealer.
Yes.
That will actually work with both of you.
Yes.
And that is so critical. Our guys, our team know it's a partnership.
Yes.
So, we're very, very involved in that. But 100%, Bill, it's just, they're almost prehistoric thought patterns now.
They are.
And it's no different to going out and buying a car and that sort of thing. But you know what? It's 2023 and I still hear stories about it on a weekly basis.
Yes.
That salesperson came out, didn't involve me in the conversation, didn't make eye contact with me, and it's one of those things that it really does grind my gears, for lack of a better expression.
Yes.
For God's sake, the society we live in now is involve everyone.
Yes, that's right. No, I completely agree with that. And that probably leads me to my next question. The Adelaide Hills and Fleurieu are quite a unique environment in that it's quite hilly. And I think a tractor with a fairly low centre of gravity is probably not a bad idea. And also filling tyres with water, etc. Also, very good idea. If that's what your dealership, your salesperson is recommending, then my goodness, you need to do that. What are some of the key things that you'd be looking for, or you would be raising, with potential buyers, of perhaps a first-time tractor buyer, of what they really need to be considering when they're buying a tractor for their property in the Adelaide Hills and Fleurieu?
Absolutely. I'm going to tackle you on your last point. We don't recommend water and tyres.
Don't you?
No, absolutely not. Not now. That's right, some people still do. It's just a policy that we've had.
I need Pods to jump in here. He's not mic'd up, but our case tractor jumped around a fair bit when we first got it, and so we were recommended to put water in it, and it has, the ride we get in it is much better, and we feel that it has lowered or that centre of gravity, and it's safe. So I find that fascinating.
Different schools of thought. There is different schools of thought. And we can have a chat about that.
Maybe, sorry, just to interrupt, maybe that is also partly to do with the fact we have a big, heavy post hole knocker on the back of ours most of the time.
Yep.
And that could be part of it. But
I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
No.
Our take on it is that we don't do it.
Right.
But I guess the considerations, and you're right, as soon as you get undulating country and hills, it changes the game. So go back to, we were talking before about our 20, 25 horsepower tractor. You buy them, they come into us, they're assembled and they're delivered, and they come on a pretty narrow track. So in terms of, it's only a small tractor, and if you looked at it, your centre of gravity is pretty low. Mm-hmm. However, you've got such a skinny wheelbase that one of the things that we run through, and we literally go right through to what we talked about before, up to that 100 horsepower, is that we will, our sales team will actually understand where the tractor's going and what sort of work it's going to do. As soon as you involve a front end loader, there's going to be times where the loader's up in the air, so you increase your centre of gravity 2-3-fold.
Yes.
And I guess that we'll go back to the tractoring for women thing, which talks about all those sort of things. But we look at the considerations of setting the track on the wheels wider.
Yes.
So one of the things we can do on the smaller tractors, they're not like the big tractors where you've got a bar axle and you can just slide the wheels in and out.
Yes.
We will actually take the rims and turn them around.
Yes.
So you will pick up a bigger footprint or a wider footprint, thereby lowering your centre of gravity for those hilly situations.
Yes. And that kind of advice, that kind of stuff, you do not get if you buy a second-hand tractor. Or, that's really important.
Absolutely. And I think it's us taking the time to understand what you're going to do with the machine.
Yeah.
Because, you know what, Bill? You've been around this space for a long time, as has Pods. If you get it wrong, sometimes you only get one chance.
Yeah.
So, to sit there and go, she'll be right, well, she might be right, but if she's not right, it might not be any good after that. So they're little things that we do. And again, they're not hugely involved things. It's just simply about communicating with people and understanding what they want to do with the machine.
Yeah, no, that's right. Thank you so much for your support of our Tractoring for Women event. We are going to be running some more. We are looking at rolling it out on a more national scale. We just need to work out how that looks and how we make it happen, but we're really looking forward to a future where we see more women tractoring around the paddocks.
Absolutely, and we're looking forward to helping you where we can.
Lovely. Thanks, Tim.
Fantastic, Bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening to this month's Adelaide Hills and Fleurieu Farmcast. It's been wonderful to bring this to you, and it's been a very special month being able to bring to you our Tractoring for Women event and the 2 farm fencing demo days. See you next month.
Thanks for listening to the Adelaide Hills Farmcast. Belle and I hope you found it helpful. You can leave comments and send questions on the show notes page for this episode, adelaidehillsfarmservices.com.au. Just click on Farmcast, which is on our website.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.